Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review. And I thoroughly enjoyed this episode of Lucha Underground. You might as well bring, a record player, in to replace me for the intro, because I consistently enjoy Lucha Underground. This week was no different. We had a phenomenal main event between King Cuerno and Johnny Mundo in a steel cage. Some storyline progression, very intriguing storyline progression between Fenix, Mil Muertes, and Catrina. So just some great stuff all around on this hour. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, this show was really, really good. We only had 3 matches throughout the entire show, but at least 2 of the 3 matches felt really important, and the third one felt just flat-out fun.
Absolutely. Completely agree. So with
Plus, we got a crap ton of storyline progression other than the matches themselves.
Absolutely. So with that said, let's roll right into our first segment. Heat of the night. I don't have any heats of the night tonight. No nitpicks. This show was just a really fun hour, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
And I completely agree. I think I might have had a nitpick. Yeah, I had a nitpick last week, but I'm just going to come right out and say this episode of Lucha Underground was far better than last week's. From beginning to end, I had a smile on my face.
Excellent. So with that said, let us get right into our Lucha Underground review. And we open, with a video package just recapping everything. Then we have, the band playing to start. And I believe we have pretty much a cold open. We didn't get a cinematic open, did we?
I don't know. I missed the first, literally, 90 seconds of this show. So we might have, but I wouldn't have known it.
I don't think we did, because I think, what was our first match on this card? Because I think that's really
Pentagon Jr. versus Argenis.
Yeah, that's right. And, this match, what I liked about this match is, the competition was upped. It's a similar criticism we've had, with what Ryback does, with what all these types of characters Baron Corbin. But what makes this even better is that Pentagon Jr. is servicing a higher power.
Right.
And if they're going with the whole narrative of sacrifices, well, you want the prestige of the sacrifices to be upped eventually. You don't want to keep having these paltry sacrifices. You want to move up. So the ultimate sacrifice, you would have to think, would be the world champion. So I'm wondering, how that's all going to work itself out. But I really like that narrative of, I'm making these tributes, I'm making these sacrifices, and yet the prestige of them, the worth of them, so to speak, is slowly but surely being upped. So I really, really like that. This is a solid opener. Argenis got more offense than, say, a Famous Bee or a Ricky Mandel, to be sure. It was able to get some aerial maneuverings going, some Hurricane Rana, some dives on the outside. But it wasn't long before Pentagon Jr. just completely negated that. In fact, I think the real tie turner of the matchup was Argenis was going for it like a springboard, like back elbow, like Tachiri does, and Pentagon Jr. got a drop kick, right in his gut. And that's just when he completely took control. He did that reverse Death Valley driver spot where he just drives the abdomen into the turnbuckle into the corner and he drop kicks the head. That was really brutal. And we even saw the return, Ashton, of the packaged pile driver in this match.
Yeah, we did. What I love about this match is that if you've never seen an episode of Lucha Underground before, if you are maybe you're kind of closed in on that WWE bubble and all you ever watch is Raw, and every now and then if SmackDown's on and you don't have anything better to do, to check that out. If you watch this match, you know what's going on here. You could tell, because you know what this match reminded me of?
What's that?
John Morrison versus Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Because Argenis got all his stuff in early. He had the advantage early, and then Pentagon Jr. stopped putting up with his shit, and he shut it down, and he dominated.
Yeah, he did, in a very fierce way. What I love, too, is that the package pile driver, which is a match ender in itself, but Pentagon Jr. doesn't stop there. He goes for his arm submission. He gets the victory, but then he does break the arm of Argenis.
What I want this to lead to Miss the C's debuting for Lucha Underground to challenge Pentagon Jr.
That could be very, very interesting. Yeah, I'm wondering what the whole end
Commentary's been talking about how Argenis is his brother.
Yeah, that would be a really great transition. You know, you go from Argenis being taken out to that debut when one door closes, another one opens, so to speak.
You know who
I'd really
Miz
like
is, right, John?
I'm not really all that familiar, to be
honest. The original Sin Cara.
Ah. Yeah, and you know what? It would be the Battle of the Arm Bars, because the original Sin Cara has that La Mystico arm bar, and Pentagon Jr. has his variation of it. It'd be very cool. So, yeah, I could dig it, definitely.
Yep.
So, yeah, fun matchup. Afterwards, you know, he cuts a promo pretty much saying that he's ready, master, and that, you know, he hopes that his master liked what he did because he has zero fear. And I love it, man. The crowd is so behind Pentagon Jr. I think that's another thing that keeps being noteworthy to mention. And even commentary brings it up. Like, Matt Striker almost sounds concerned, you know, in his voice when he says, well, Vamp, I mean, what do you think about this crowd just really getting behind Pentagon Jr. and enjoying the punishment? And Vampiro says, hey, man, it's fun to watch. So, yeah, Pentagon Jr., who maybe by design should be like this really malicious, remorseless heel, is just being so embraced by the temple, it's ridiculous.
Well, I really, we were talking about Baron Corbin earlier. It's kind of like that. It's easy to latch on to somebody who dominates opponents, even if he is overly violent.
And see, the funny thing is, though, and there's one distinct difference between Corbin and Pentagon Jr. It's that, you know, Baron Corbin's punishment stops when the bell rings.
Right.
Pentagon Jr. has gone out of his way to break people's arms and just really brutalize people. And I think, you know, I certainly get where you're coming from, and I don't think, you know, that takes away any credence from your point. But it's just interesting to me that a really heelish act, like taking somebody out of action, which is a common you know, storytelling device in wrestling, is just being so embraced by the temple. I actually think it's pretty unique. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because you have to wonder, like, when are we going to see these guys again? Are we going to see, you know, Famous B or Ricky Mandel or Vinny Massaro or this Argenis? Are we going to see these guys? Because I really enjoyed, and again, it's hard to say about the other three because we didn't get to see much of their work, but I know for a fact that I enjoyed Argenis' work. Right.
And, you know, you just have to wonder, are we going to see these guys again, to your point? Are they going to come back later in some kind of revenge angle on Pentagon Jr.?
Yeah.
You know, maybe trying to make him pay for his sins. Maybe they'll try and band together as some kind of, you know, undercard faction or something, being like, hey, you know, we got mistreated and abused and Dario Cueto didn't even care. Well, if we join forces, you know, then we can make change happen. Who knows with Lucha Underground? And that's probably the best possible conclusion to come to, is that these guys, just when I think I know where they're going with a certain, you know, narrative path, they just completely diverge it and do something completely unexpected. So I'm curious how that'll all unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, though, up next we had a backstage segment starring Fenix, and I don't know if Catrina herself showed up or if there was just some kind of magic or illusion at work here. I don't know what to call it because it seems like she kind of shows up and then disappears out of nowhere. But she basically just tells Fenix, and I quote, that he needs to bury him, and him, of course, referring to Mil Muertes.
Yes, you know, very interesting that, you know, she's talking to him about this. And I know a lot of people from where I was watching Lucha Underground, they said, oh, you know, we're getting a buried alive match, and that, like, they thought they were making
Yeah, and see, I was thinking maybe like a casket match.
And see, yeah, casket match is another thing. Here's the great thing about Lucha Underground, right, is that obviously my mind did go to those two routes as well, but then I'm thinking, well, what if it's just going to be another, like, really detailed, cinematic kind of thing, where it's a confrontation between Fenix and Mil Muertes, and, you know, it's kind of Mil Muertes' final resting place or something. See, that's the beautiful thing, is that Lucha Underground, I think, has shown such ingenuity with this storyline. My mind does go to matches, sure, but it also goes to, like, other cinematic developments, potentially. So
right.
Who knows, like, where this is all going to go. It's just such a weird storyline, but I'm loving every twist and turn of it, man.
Yeah, but, and I love that we're getting so much storyline progression with nothing happening in the ring, with nobody cutting any promos. This is exclusively backstage vignettes being used as miniature movies, telling a story, and there's nothing worth complaining about because it's great.
Dude, you know, you mentioned something very interesting at the top of the episode, where you said that it was only 3 matches tonight. I feel like that was a similar structure to last week's episode as well. We didn't have many matches last week either. But I love that they don't have to rely so heavily on in-ring content to get their stories across.
Yeah, like I always hate it when people watch like a TNA or a WWE and they have a little stopwatch and they turn the stopwatch on when a bell rings and then they stop it when the bell rings to end the match. And they, at the end of the show, they're like, oh my goodness, we only had 32 minutes and 26 seconds of in-ring action on this 3-hour show. It's like, screw you, man. I don't care about having freaking 20-minute matches on a random episode of Raw. I could honestly, I'm not even joking here, I could range anywhere from an episode of Raw where we get a tournament and we get, an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours worth of the 3 hours in-ring action because we have 8 guys in the tournament, so that's 4 matches plus another 2 plus 1 to end the night, and that's the whole show of Raw. I could deal with that. That would be cool. But I could also deal with an episode of Raw where we get a grand total of like 15 minutes of in-ring action if they do a really good job of telling stories outside of the ring.
I completely agree with you. Listen, the matches that any product has are going to be meaningless unless I care about the story that they're revolving around.
Exactly. And I hate it when people count the minutes. And I know I already said this, but like people actually do this. People actually sit there with a stopwatch and count the minutes of in-ring action because it's a wrestling show and there was only this much wrestling on the show. Well, you know what? Screw off. It's at the end of the day, it's an entertainment show. Whether it's TNA or WWE or Lucha Underground, say what you want. And that's another thing. I hate it when people are like, oh, I hate sports entertainment, but I love professional wrestling. It's the same exact thing. At the end of the day, pro wrestling is about entertainment. It's about getting people to be emotionally invested in the people who do the wrestling in the first place. And if you can't do that, then maybe you shouldn't have as much wrestling on your show because people don't give a crap about the matches.
And I know that has been a gripe with you, in personal conversations we have about the product and current state of WWE and wrestling in general. But what I love about Lucha Underground is I think they both cater to that sect of the fan base, and yet they don't at the same time. Like, the perfect storyline I'm thinking of when we're having this discussion is Drago versus Aerostar, because before it was just these two guys having matches for the sake of having matches. And, we thought, well, yeah, they're fun, but there's really no greater stake. Bam, out comes Dario Cueto, turns it into a best-of-5 series with a prize at the end.
Yeah, and if you remember, if Dario Cueto hadn't done that, I was ready to make that a heat of the night because there was no reason for them to be wrestling as much as they were.
Exactly. So I think Lucha Underground, I love that they're a promotion that has, like, that feel and that vibe that I think a lot of quote-unquote pro wrestling fans will gravitate towards, the stopwatchers, as we'll call them, because you've made that reference twice. And at the same time catering to people like us because they have a grander story all around it, all encompassing this atmosphere. It's brilliant, man. And just to bring it back to this point, I mean, whatever Fenix and Mil Muertes are getting set to do, I'm all in, and I think it'll be a great encounter, whatever it turns out being. So I'm totally invested.
And speaking of Drago and Aerostar, where have they been? It seems like they haven't been on in like a month.
Well, I think it's been like 2 weeks since they've on, because I've been looking forward to their third encounter now that we know there's a prize at the end and this series is going on.
Wouldn't it be their 4th encounter? Haven't they already fought each other 3 times?
No, they've fought each other twice.
Oh.
This would be their 3rd encounter.
Oh.
Yeah, because Aerostar won the rematch, and that's what started our best-of-5 series to begin with.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, but, so I've been looking forward to their 3rd match, and it hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping next week, because there really hasn't been much announced for the card next week, so that should give them an opportunity to really get some time in and be able to have their 3rd match. But regardless, that's really all I had to say about the Mil Muertes Fenix Catrina segment here. If there's anything else you wanted to say, I thought we could move on.
Move on.
All right, what came after this then?
Up next, we had a Konnan vignette, the Revenge is Coming thing. We got a little bit more revealed in this vignette, as it seems like, because on our episode last week, we had some comments pointing out that there were 4 shadowy figures, and that it might be a faction that is already sort of established in AAA. But tonight, if you paid attention, there were actually 5 guys. Now, I don't know, and none of them, let me say this, none of them looked like they had Konnan's sort of figure. None of them looked like they were sort of Konnan-shaped. So they all they all might be unique entities being revealed as time goes on, but whether they are or whether it's 4 guys plus Konnan, I'm not sure. What do you think, John?
You know, looking at this vignette tonight, I was going to say the latter, that it's 4 guys and Konnan leading the charge. What's so curious about this to me is where does Prince Puma fit into all this?
Yeah.
You know? Because, like, he talked to Puma and he said, hey, you know, keep your head on straight. And, you know, he did cite the art of war, and they cited it again here. You know, a true battle is won before it's ever even fought, and all that other good stuff. And, you know, I'm thinking, you know, does Puma know about this? What Konnan's doing? Is that going to cause dissension between those two? That, hey, Konnan, I thought I was your primary focus. You know, you're supposed to be representing me, taking me to the top, and now you're diverting your attention to these other guys. I'm sensing potentially friction here. Because just something tells me, this isn't going to end well for Konnan's camp as it concerns Prince Puma and potentially the Lucha Underground Championship.
Right.
So, you know, that's the intriguing part to me. But as far as those 4 dudes, dude, I don't know, man. Cage and everybody else better watch their back, because Konnan from day one, he struck me as the type of character that I could see him ultimately butting heads with Cueto in terms of, like, more political stake within Lucha Underground, like who's going to control the temple, who's going to wield the temple's power. And I always kind of envisioned maybe Konnan kind of having an affront to Cueto and saying, hey, you know, I'm in charge around here, and with these guys coming in, I mean, who's to say it stops at just exacting revenge upon Cage? I think this has much farther reaching implications, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I really, really enjoy these vignettes, though. I love the feel. I love the atmosphere. I love the music that they're using. It's so good. And it's one of those things where I've never really been a huge, like, oh my God, Konnan's awesome. Like, I've never been that guy, but I am really enjoying his work in Lucha Underground, and I definitely hope he sticks around. Plus, he got a new badass reinforced cane, so obviously we're going to get to see that as well.
Isn't it hilarious? And I only say this because I came across one comment that I think summed it up perfectly and just shows you the brilliance of Lucha Underground's, you know, production value and how they use the cinematic edge they have to the fullest. Because somebody even commented, wow, I'm more interested in Konnan than any WWE superstar going into WrestleMania this year. It's crazy to me, because this is an older guy. He's not even a competitor. He's a manager. And even he has, like, this aura and this intrigue going on around him because of these video packages. I love it, man. I love it. It's so good. Yeah. So we'll see when his revenge is coming. But revenge, looking by those 4 shadowy figures, seems to be swift and fierce. So Cage better watch himself.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Up next, we had, I really liked this too. It was a cool little segment where they just kind of show King Cuerno driving to the temple. They say it's 15 minutes to the cage match, and they do these really cool speed warps that just kind of look really cool and have like a really nice effect on the background. I just really liked this. It was a quick, simple little segment that just did a little bit more to get you hyped up for the cage match tonight.
I think, you know, the one word you said and all that, simple. And that's really the beauty of it, and that's really all I have to say about it, so we can move on.
All right. We have our second match of the night, Angelico versus Ivelisse, with special guest referee Son of Havoc. And, man, this match was so good. I love the psychology that these guys have.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. You know, it's funny, right? Because I feel like if WWE was to try and do something like this, say with, like, a Santino Marella type character, whenever he had a love interest, and maybe somebody else to complete the triangle, the person who would kind of serve on Angelico's role in this particular thing, I feel like it would be, you know, kind of hokey, kind of overdone. I don't know. I just really was invested in this the entire time. I had a good time with it. And, you know, to me, it's funny, because as much as I love Angelico, and I know how big you are on him, that goes without saying.
Yeah, he's awesome.
To me, he does kind of come off, to me, as a heel here, because he's kind of making a big, you know, joke of this whole thing, you know, being flirtatious and, you know, just kind of moving up on Ivelisse, when Ivelisse just genuinely wants to compete. She's like, she even says, like, at one point in the match, come on, hit me. Come on, hit me. Like, she wants it. But I love that dynamic, though. I love that dynamic that Angelico, like, he does not want to hurt her. He is trying to demonstrate chivalry and this, that, and the other. And Ivelisse is like, screw that and screw you. I'll take the fight to you if you don't want to fight me. And they actually have a legitimately entertaining match. And Son of Havoc, I like, too, that he didn't really get overly involved in this match. That was kind of one of my concerns. I'm like, well, how hands-on is he going to be? Are they just going to double-team on Angelico the entire time? How are they going to play this? I feel like he had the perfect amount of involvement. He was perfectly, restrained, and I think that just made his role all the more enjoyable. This is a really fun endeavor.
What I loved so much about this match, like I said earlier, was the psychology. Because early on, you had Angelico kind of trying to talk to Ivelisse, trying to get her to not fight, that kind of thing. And she's just like, well, no, screw that. And she goes for these ridiculous series of arm drags. And she just arm drag after arm drag after arm drag. And she's this tough chick, and she isn't interested in sort of socializing with her opponent. She wants to win. It's that simple. She's interested in beating Angelico. And it was really good. And then he eventually, at one point, he kind of snaps out of it, and he's like, all right, well, obviously we're fighting here. So he goes for his jumping knee to the face in the corner, and right as he's about to get there and land it, Son of Havoc actually pulls Ivelisse out of the corner to prevent her from taking it. So he not only that, but then he starts kind of screwing with the count a little bit, and then eventually we get a pinning sequence that ends in Ivelisse sitting on Angelico's chest to pin him. And apparently, he's into that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's where the comedy, I think, really pays off. And see, that's where I think I was trying to articulate earlier when I was making the WWE Lucha Underground comparison. I feel like Lucha Underground, they work up to the comedy, and that's why I like it. I feel like WWE would have blown their load too early, and they would have gone straight for the comedy. Whereas, no, Lucha Underground will give you a legitimate matchup, give you a legitimate story, and then have those comedic bits towards the tail end where it would serve as a payoff more than anything else.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. That's what I was trying to articulate earlier. But that said, I do love it. I love how legitimate they make Ivelisse look. I would even say to a degree, maybe even more than Sexy Star, because she just wants to take care of her own business. I mean, she calls herself the baddest bitch in the building. That's her thing. And, yeah, she takes the fight to him, and when he finally does take it seriously, it's not even like he dominates her either. Like, oh, it's only because the man, wasn't taking it seriously that, he had a hard time. No. Ivelisse is legit, and yes, she did have Son of Havoc's help, that is worth noting, but they're heels, so it's forgivable. That doesn't even equate gender into it.
Yep.
So really good stuff. And then, as you mentioned, the pinning combinations, and Angelico just enjoying it because he's not focusing on winning. To him, the bigger prize is Ivelisse's affections and pulling her away from Son of Havoc, which creates that whole dynamic.
Yeah.
And then, finally Ivelisse gets frustrated. She slaps Son of Havoc in the face. I actually thought it would have been a moment where maybe Son of Havoc would have shoved Ivelisse or whatever, but he keeps his composure. Angelico was going to kick Son of Havoc in the face, but he ends up connecting with Ivelisse. And then he gets on top of her to cover her. And Son of Havoc makes the very quick count, which, again, makes sense within the storyline because Son of Havoc, is the boyfriend of Ivelisse. He's jealous. So even though it would give Ivelisse the loss, for Son of Havoc in that moment, it's about his pride. It's about saying, hey, that's my girlfriend. Get off. And, so I really love how they wove this whole web together because it didn't seem like at any point it was contradicting what it was trying to do or the several aims it had going on. It seemed like a seamless narrative, and I really appreciate that. Absolutely.
It was great. I loved the fast count because normally you'd be like, oh, well, of course, he's not going to count whenever Angelico pins Ivelisse, but every time she goes to pin Angelico, he's going to do a fast count. But it really didn't work out like that at all. If anything, it was the opposite of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was almost like, when Ivelisse had the pins, Son of Havoc seemed to have a tough time, getting in position, and then even then, didn't really seem to be counting with any kind of urgency. Yeah. But then Angelico pins Ivelisse in just a certain type of manner that Son of Havoc doesn't agree with, and it's like, 1, 2, 3, and it's over. So,
get off her!
Get off her, man! It's like, yeah, so really, really interesting, but I enjoyed it.
I'm telling you, man, it's a double turn coming. We already though, when when Son of Havoc came out with his referee jersey on, the crowd was chanting "Son of Havoc."
Yeah, they were. I'm telling you, dude, this guy is going to be one of their big baby faces in the coming months if he isn't already there. It's amazing because I always thought, Son of Havoc is just going to be that fodder for any other up-and-comer that Lucha Underground has any kind of vested interest in. No, he's becoming a star in his own right, and who knows how bright that star will burn.
You thought that Son of Havoc was going to be Lucha Underground's interested as C.J. Parker.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's actually an excellent comparison there, Ashton, to the T, definitely. And Son of Havoc, I think, has completely transcended that in the best possible way. I'm very happy for him.
Absolutely. He's great. Up next, we had a backstage segment, yet again, Mil Muertes. And again, this sort of illusion of Catrina shows up. I don't want to say it's her because, again, she just kind of shows up and screws with his head and then leaves, and you can't even see her arriving or leaving. She just kind of appears and disappears out of nowhere. She tells him that she's sending Fenix to take him out, and she says something about how Fenix is going to put him in what's the word?
Coffin.
Yeah, a coffin, and close the lid and put him back in that darkness, and that death is coming for him. And it really, again, I have to ask, are we getting a casket match?
That seems to be what they're alluding to.
But maybe they would call it a coffin match instead of a casket match, just to change it up so that it's not a WWE thing.
And maybe they would, and who knows how they'll even... Yeah, I mean, I know the rules of any kind of casket coffin type matchup, but maybe they'll put their own little spin on it. I don't know, it's crazy, but if that is the case, holy crap, that's gonna really be something. And just wow. I mean, nothing really more to say than that. I love how she made reference to the whole accident, where her and Mil first met, the whole earthquake. Is the stone going to play any role in it? What's going to happen to Mil Muertes and Fenix and really every party involved in this after this alleged coffin match that we, presume is going to take place next week? Man, it's going to be something.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess it's time that we move on to our main event of the evening. Johnny Mundo, King Cuerno, not even a steel cage, just a freaking chain link fence, 8 foot tall, surrounding the ring. I love it.
I gotta mention another comment I saw from them. They said it had an NWA feel to them, and yeah, I got a similar vibe. Very old school look for that cage. I loved it. Though.
See, you say that, but to me, it's like they just took a freaking chain link fence off the streets and used that as their cage, which is so perfect because of the whole Boyle Heights, kind of like the urban street feel. It's so good.
Yeah, it certainly fits the aesthetic of Lucha Underground being, like this underground temple, this Fight Club kind of feel.
Yeah.
I know you appreciated that there was no rule to escape through the door in this case.
Dude, I hate that rule so much. The only reason that I ever actually cheer for somebody to do that is when it's a heel and it's against John Cena, because I know that that's generally the only way any heel ever beats John Cena in a cage match.
I know, right? But this match,
yeah,
I love the chemistry these two have together.
Yep.
I really do. It is so good. And look, yeah, obviously I'm going to have my crazy Mundo moments in this review, I'm sure, but right. I have to give praise to King Cuerno here. His psychology is so on point with whoever he wrestles, which it should be, considering that he is a hunter gimmick. But the way he targeted that leg of Mundo's in certain points of this matchup, at one point I think they were balancing themselves on the ropes, so they were fighting on one side of the cage, and he got him in a dragon screw, and he just took his knee completely down, and the fall looked nasty. I'm like, wow. So he did an excellent job pinpointing that knee and working it over in this match. And really, it felt like a fight. It felt like, that whole brawl that took place last week carried right on over into this cage match. And I loved every second of it, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. This match was, I mean, to use one word to describe this match, fun.
Yes.
And really, if you want to go by what they were kind of selling it as, and I can agree with this, violent.
You know what? I was going to use that word, instead of saying it was a brawl, it was a fight. It was very violent. There was a level of physicality that I really appreciated between these two. The way Cuerno would use the cage again, wrapping Mundo's knees up and working that over. Mundo at one point, and I love this sequence because Cuerno was going to go for the throw of the hunt. Mundo slides out of it, and then he gets Cuerno in the fireman's carry position, and then he drives his back to one end of the cage wall, then another end of the cage wall, and then he does a steamroller. And I love that sequence because it's like, man, these guys are just they're really utilizing it as a weapon. It's almost like a handicap match. It's you versus your opponent in the cage, and it's just so good how they used it. And the moments of desperation, like, oh, is that guy going to go over the top, and the way they stopped him. In fact, there was one I really appreciated, and this is where I have to give commentary credit to, because this is just what makes Lucha Underground's vibe, lend a certain something extra to matches that we would think, it's pretty par for the course, these types of tactics. Because Cuerno was getting ready to go over the top. All he had to do was drop to the floor. But Mundo had a hold of his mask. And commentary was making note, oh, no. And that's what made it, Mundo be able to get Cuerno back in the cage because Cuerno didn't want to suffer the disgrace of being unmasked. Mexican culture, the mask is sacred. To be unmasked by somebody, that's a form of sacrilege.
Yeah.
So I love that, man. I love that. And it may even be construed as a little bit heelish, because Mundo.
I was just going to say that, dude. If Mundo would have gone through with it, if Cuerno would have let him and unmasked him, that would have almost been like Mundo would have gotten booed out of the building for that.
And personally, I wouldn't have cared regardless. A, because, of course, I'm a Mundo mark, but B, I really have been craving him to go back to being an heel. But I love it because, he does know the culture, and he kind of uses that to his advantage. And again, it makes sense because it's Lucha Underground. I mean, maybe
right.
If it was WWE, you could have used the same narrative, sure. But it makes even more sense here because of how important it is and where you are. Hell, when Chavo Guerrero at Blue Demon Jr., Konnan was telling him, hey, you want to, make yourself scarce like a comprehensive immigration bill. Imagine if you were unmasked in Mexico, how you'd feel and be received. Jesus. So, yeah, he's able to get Cuerno back in the cage then. The back and forth continues. Mundo hits a sick seated running knee strike at one point. That was absolutely beautiful. Cuerno, though, returns fire in his own way. That's right. One maneuver he did, he kind of retorted whole Mundo's, fireman's carry, back to cage steamroller with a back to cage power bomb. That was really cool looking.
Yeah.
But finally, though, Ashton, it was a battle on the top rope. Mundo got the better of it. It seemed like he was going to climb out of the cage, but you saw Cuerno was stirring, and then Mundo's like, no. You see, I'm amazing at what I do, so I'm going to show off and give these fans something to remember. And from the top of the cage, he does this corkscrew dive. I don't know if it was exactly like an end of the world sort of thing, but it seemed a little bit
similar. It basically was.
Yeah, that's kind of what it struck me as from what I remember. And he connected on Cuerno, and that's how Johnny Mundo won this match. Holy crap.
Yeah. When this match was over, I said to you, and I'm going to repeat it here, when was the last time you saw somebody not only connect when they are on the top of the cage thinking they could escape and decide to come back into the ring with a move, but B, win off of that move? How often do you see that? Because I feel like 99% of the off the top of the cage moves that we've seen done over the course of the last decade are just Kurt Angle missing moonsaults.
The last time, if you really wanted a specific instance, because I'm the whole memory guy, the record keeper, where we actually saw something like that, it was, from my recollection, Jeff Hardy versus Umaga in a steel cage where he did the whisper in the wind off the top, and he only caught him with the boot to the head side of it, and that's how he got the pin. It was when he was in his feud with Randy Orton. But I think that was 2011, I think? Or no, it should have been, I think, 2010, I think. But yeah, so that long ago. You're talking 5 years, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
So you really don't see it often. And it's crazy. And Mundo here, and here's the difference even between that and this. Mundo connected completely, and I have to give it up to King Cuerno for that as well. He was, in the perfect position and everything. Because the last time we saw something that cringeworthy, remember Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus the New Age Outlaws? Cody does that moonsault. It didn't even look like it really connected at all. And I felt so bad for Cody because I'm like, oh, God, that bump.
Yeah.
But, Cuerno He had his man covered and protected, and I really have to commend him for that. Because, first of all, obviously you want to take care of your own in a matchup. Right. And second of all, it just makes the spot look so much better that way. Because who's going to care about a spot? In fact, I could have already pictured the Johnny Mundo jokes. Oh, well, he missed it again. But I was so happy that he fully connected and got the win with it. It's just such a fun cage match, and of course I popped. So, great stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this match. I think that Mundo doing the end of the world off the top cage is one of those things where, like, if Lucha Underground had an opening signature like WWE did, it would be in that reel.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so good.
Definitely. So, with that said, I really have no more remarks to make about this match. If you do, we can move on.
Go ahead.
All right, let's move on to high spots and low shots. And I'm going to say that my low shot is Argenis. Pretty straightforward here. Definitely the toughest competition of Pentagon Jr. to date, but he still came up short. Not only that, he has a severely damaged arm for his troubles. Who knows if and when we will see Argenis again.
Oh, man. I hope sooner than later because, like I said, I know I enjoy his work.
Absolutely. Same here.
All right. Well, now what?
Now your low shot.
Oh, my low shot.
Yeah.
My low shot is going to be, man, it's funny. I'm almost tempted to make my low shot Cage because he wasn't on tonight and Konnan is coming for revenge, complete with Steel Rod Kane and, like, 4 or 5 guys as his backup.
Right.
But I feel bad making somebody who wasn't even on the show tonight my low shot. So I'm just going to say my low shot is Mil Muertes because, man, Catrina is playing mind games with him, and she is inside the head of Fenix, and she is sending Fenix to take him out. And, again, the potential of a coffin match. What?
I completely agree with you, Ashton. I mean, not to read too far into it, but I mean, imagine what Mil Muertes is going through. Yeah. If we consider the whole origin story, again, him and Catrina met up, soon after his parents died in that earthquake, and she kind of led him and built a life for him. And you're talking about the ultimate betrayal of trust on so many levels. His head cannot be in a good place. And yeah, for that alone, he's certainly worthy of a low shot. So excellent choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm going to be that guy because I have fun here on TWitWoW. I love talking about it with my bro and cohort and commentary here, so I'm going to take that route. My high spot's Johnny Mundo.
There you go.
Won a really fun cage match, and to be fair, because yes, obviously I am a Mundo mark, and that makes it obvious, but as commentary themselves noted, this win does bring Johnny Mundo closer to #1 contendership for the Lucha Underground Championship.
Yep.
So I've got my eye on the prize. I want to have that mark out. I have been waiting for years to have that mark out. So I think we're close, hopefully. I know Cage has something to say about it, but Mundo's getting back on a roll, baby. We're getting back up there. Absolutely. So yeah, he's my high spot.
All right, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from there. My high spot, you know what? I'm going to make my high spot Angelico because he won the match. He got to have some fun doing it. Apparently he enjoys it when Ivelisse sits on his chest. He had a good time tonight.
He did. I mean, here's the thing, dude. Not only did he win his match, I think he's getting closer to his goal because he's creating that tension and he's getting in the heads of both Ivelisse and Son of Havoc.
Yeah.
So you pick up a W and you continue being the puppet master. If it's not a good day at the office, I don't know what is.
Right.
So, excellent choice again. I completely agree with you. With that said, do you have any concluding remarks about tonight's show?
No, I just really enjoyed the show, and I hope that the hot streak that was started tonight lasts at least a few more weeks because the show is awesome.
Absolutely. Well, with that said, guys, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. What did you think of this week's Steel Cage main event? What do you think Konnan's revenge is going to look like? Are you as excited for it as we are? Be sure to take the conversation over to TWitWoW on Facebook, an amazing pro wrestling group. Also, be sure to shift the discussion over to our TWitWoW subreddit, if you like, created by Ashton. So you have many avenues to, you guessed it, talk to us. And we will see you again for our NXT review, where CJ Parker will take on a returning Alex Riley, who has got to have Kevin Owens on his mind. We'll see how it all pans out for him. So until then, guys, tune in and peace out.